What's up, man? Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about the most exciting shit in the fucking world, George. UFC.
Yeah, buddy. The UFC had two events in 4 days, and I'd say both events lived up to their price tag.
They really did. Both events did live up to the fight tag. We'll recap. I'm going to tell you what, everybody. We're not going to go into detail about UFC Fight Night, Fight for the Troops. The big things that came out of it: Alexis Davis defeated Liz Carmouche, and basically Tim Kennedy on a fucked up leg knocked out fucking Rafael Natal. That was the most, eventful things about the event. But really, to be honest with you, it doesn't. I don't think any of these fights really had any
bearing
mix up in their division. Yeah, any bearing on what in their respective divisions. So we're going to kind of skip over that, and we're going to talk about what happened Saturday night, and that was, of course, UFC Fight Night, Belfort versus Henderson. That's where shit got a little bit interesting. And we're going to start out with Jeremy Stevens, who is a hard-hitting motherfucker, and he defeated Roy. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm saying yes. I was agreeing with you. You write this shit down, take a picture in time, but I'm agreeing with you.
Jeremy Stevens is a hard hit. Remember, we did the interview a while back with the guy who fought Kimbo Slice, and
Brian
everybody
Green.
thought he took it down. Yeah, and I believe it was Jeremy Stevens. He said that was the hardest hitting person he had ever been hit by.
Yeah, he said he got hit so hard he just saw like double and triplicate. And Jeremy Stevens is nasty. I think he's always been nasty, and he continues to prove that if you're going to stand with him, he's probably going to drop you.
He's probably going to drop you, and that's exactly what he did to Ronnie Jason. In the welterweight fight, you had Ryan LaFleur, wasn't it, going up against Santiago? I have no idea because there's a bunch of vowels and consonants and all kinds of other letters. Would you care to take a stab at his last name?
No, you got it, buddy.
No, I'm not. I don't have it because I don't have it. Believe me, trust me, I can't pronounce his last name. I'm sorry if you're watching this video because George and I suck at pronouncing names, but I guess it doesn't really matter because you lost on a unanimous decision. Now, this is where I thought things got interesting, and this was a welterweight fight, and I talked to George about this, and Brandon Thatch defeated Paulo Thiago.
Brandon Thatch is nasty.
He is nasty. The interesting thing about this guy is he's won now his last 11 fights. His first fight, I believe he lost, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure someone will. But Thatch is a big motherfucking welterweight. Not only is he tall, but he's big. He's big as fucking shit, and you see how big these welterweights are getting, and I'm like, wow, man. If everybody's dropping down a class now, George. Have you noticed that? Everybody's like, fuck this, I'm dropping down.
They're figuring out. Someone, in my opinion, has come along and shared the secret of the weight cut. Because let's face it, we've looked at who was the guy who left. The real Anthony Rumble Johnson. You're looking at a guy who, once he left the UFC, he fought at heavyweight. And mind you, he was fighting at 170 at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was sucking weight down the welter, and then he went to middle, and then he went to light heavy to heavy. He just went bam, bam, bam. He went up 3 weight classes in a matter of like a half a year.
That tells me somebody has found a secret. Now, I let's face it, this is an interesting sport when it comes to drugs and what can be used, can't be used, what you can get exemptions for, and what you can't. So I'm not going to sit here and throw out any accusations or strange things, but some of us are a little more familiar with the drugs like Lasix and things like that, and I'm not talking about the eye surgery.
Salt, I mean, you can do that stuff, and you can take salt baths and suck a lot of weight. I mean, you can suck 7 or 8 pounds in a night easily. I mean, I know I do in wrestling, you can do that easily. Do that, but
and not only that, but you're watching these. It's one thing to cut weight and come in weak and non-responsive. Look at Jake Shields. When Jake Shields made that initial weight cut, it was horrible.
Right.
He couldn't. Rumor was he had to get helped out to the stage. We weren't there. We don't know. Like I said, rumor. But it's different when you see a guy like Machida cut weight and destroy somebody. When you see Paulo Thiago up until this point cut weight down to 170 and was mowing through people, and then he just absolutely got destroyed. GSP has got to be taking note of this. And these smaller, and now, mind you, there aren't too many small guys running with the belts anymore. These are usually bigger guys who are sucking down weight or just making weight. And GSP's never been that guy. He's always fought at 170. He's never gone up. He's never gone down. His only option, in my opinion, would be able to cut weight. He can't go up. He'd have to cut if he wants to stay fighting.
Well, yeah, and back 10 years ago, people were like, oh, come up. you're a welterweight, you jump up to middleweights and fight the competition like Anderson Silva did, like a lot of people who were middleweights moved up to light heavies did, light heavies moving in. But GSP kind of stayed in the welterweight class. But now in this day and age in MMA, people are like, I'll come to you. Because they feel like it's so competitive in their weight class that they've got to drop down. And now you get all these big-ass motherfuckers dropping to welterweight. That was the case with Brandon Thatch. He's big, he's tall, he's filled out, and he's knocked out. He's won his last 10 fights all by knockouts, all in the first round. That's some scary shit. Yeah. And you could say, oh, he hasn't fought anybody. I don't give a fuck. If you're finishing everybody and he went right through Paulo Thiago, it's not a pushover. He's a decent MMA fighter.
I'd say he's a hell of a ground tactician who's learned some stand-up. I mean, he was dismantling people at a $170, and he ran into a buzzsaw. He ran into a very big, very young kid who just picked him apart.
Right, and it was considered a submission because basically when he kneed him so hard to his body, he went to the canvas and then
he hit him in the liver.
He did. He hit him hard, Holmes, and so he just tapped out. So, it goes down as a submission, but I'm going to tell you what, if he did not tap that fucking canvas, he would have been snoring in a couple seconds. That's without a doubt. Now, moving on to the light heavyweight bout, we have Rafael Cavalcante versus Igor Pakarevich. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying, and who gives a shit? But anyway, Igor lost.
Yeah.
He got knocked out. Rafael Cavalcante, he's one of these guys. He's one of these light heavies that
came over from Strikeforce, and right now he's got no room for us to talk about because there's too much shit going on at 205. And what we really need to talk about is the main event on this fight card because it is stirring up a whole pot of shit.
It really is. And real quick, the middleweight fight, obviously those two guys got to meet, and Cesar Ferreira came on top. He beat Daniel
excellent.
Sarafian.
Wonderful fight. Excellent. You guys look great.
Wonderful. So, and I'm sorry, it was just no one really probably gave a shit about that. But Vitor Belfort versus Dan Henderson is a rematch. If you guys, a lot of you didn't realize, they fought in 2006, and Dan Henderson got a unanimous decision, but it did not go this way this night.
And for everyone who yelled at us for last week saying Dan Henderson was off TRT, you have to remember when it first came out and broke a while back about who's on, who's off, Dan Henderson said, I'll get off. And then he got on. And then he got off. Look, I'm not in this motherfucker's fight corner, neither is Kevin. We don't know what drugs they are not taking, and it's not updated daily. Okay, so he was on TRT. Did it help him? No. Is Vitor getting better as he gets older? This is the only sport in America that you can get older and get better at.
Yeah.
Period. Go read my tweets.
It is. You're right about that, George. And I think, Vitor Belfort is good. He is aggressive as shit. Like once he got Dan Henderson hurt, he finishes the job. Everybody knows that's Belfort. Belfort can do that. That's why he was the youngest champ ever in the UFC. Now, I will say this. When Belfort is clean, he reminds me a lot of Alistair Overeem. You know what I mean? And
the aggression's not there, the power's not there, the confidence. If any, what Kevin's alluding to is watch Overeem when we pretty much, I'm not going to say no, but we know he's on shit. He's coming forward and he's looking to destroy his opponent. Look at Vitor. When he's jacked on shit, he is ultra aggressive. He's looking for the knockout blow at all times, and he's so fucking strong.
Oh my God. When they entered the ring, the octagon that night, I can honestly say, George, I just sat there and said, you know what, this will be the first time Dan Henderson gets knocked out. I looked at, my girlfriend, and I'm like, she's like, wow. And you know what her thing, you know what she said when she saw Dan Henderson? She said, he looks old. He looks slow. He looks old. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah.
And he was laying on the ground and looking toward the sky when it was all over. It wasn't.
It's 43 years old, man. It's like, you know what? Okay, you can take TRT and stuff like this, but you're just reflexes. You're not as fast. You were a man who wrestled everybody. And you know what? At this point in time, I just be like, you know what? I think Dan Henderson is just a tremendous legend in the sport. Just like Fedor was a tremendous legend in the sport. But
here's the thing, and here's where I get a little torn. Look, you want to take drugs, take drugs, that's fine. What I find absolutely 100% hilarious is after the fight, this guy's thanking God. and talking about God first and God this and God that. I'm sorry, but I've never read the Bible, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you're not supposed
Praise Anadrol!
Exactly. I don't know what chapter or verse that's in. And real quick, if you guys read MMA Junkie or go over there, I'm going to read a quick excerpt from an article. It's about Vitor Belfort. It goes, now Belfort has finally become the fighter he always was supposed to be. And it's amazing to see. Exactly. That's what we're all tuning in to see the knockout. But he continues to say, it's also fraught with so many tough questions about doping and fairness and regulation, and it's almost impossible to just sit back and enjoy it without feeling like you're lying to yourself. Shit.
It's just it's not uniformed, man.
Right.
I mean,
I'm just going to read this one last paragraph and actually just a couple sentences. And this sums up where this sport is headed. That's what really sucks about testosterone replacement therapy. What testosterone replacement therapy has done to the sport. We can't just let the fighters speak for themselves anymore. Not unless we want to be the willfully ignorant marks who refuse to acknowledge what's right in front of us or fear that it might ruin our fun. And that's what it's done. So either you're going to put on blinders and act like your favorite fighter's not juicing, or you hope he's not, as long as he's winning and it never comes out, or you're just going to be observant and be like, oh, cool, look, one jacked up guy on drugs, another jacked up guy on drugs. Let's see who can kill who first.
I mean, at the end of the day, man, I don't know how you can. This is the thing. I know the UFC, they brought up the LA boxing. I know ultimately their goal is to be a mainstream sport, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. And I just don't know how you can do that when there's no type of uniformity in the sport. Like, there's different sanctions, they're different. That's why it's going to be hard. You know, when you look at what you saw, you know, obviously Vitor Belfort is an incredible fighter. I think he was the favorite under any circumstances because I know Dan Henderson had to be on a little TRT too. But when you see Vitor fighting in Brazil and he is jacked, he is close to invincible. You know, he is a good fucking middleweight. Now that, you know, and at this point in time, I would love to see what they would do. Would they let Chris Weidman fight Vitor in Brazil? With that, yeah, because I mean, Chris Weidman right now is like the people's champ, like the American champ, and then some people are going to be like, no, he's the fucking American champ, and a lot of people love that. Would they let Chris Weidman defend his title against Vitor Belfort in Brazil with a jacked up Vitor Belfort?
I don't know.
Do you think they'd like? I mean, that's what I want to fucking know, George. Would they do that? Like that's the kind of thing. Like, okay, this guy is like the All-American champ right now. Stuff. He just beat a legend in Anderson Silva. If he goes ahead and he beats Anderson Silva, where's that next fight at? Do you know?
Let me tell you, strictly when you start talking about where to fight and who to fight and what to fight, you know what the first thing that comes to my mind? Size of the venue and how much money can they make. That's what it's always going to boil down to. Now, if they can get Vitor to fight Chris Weidman in one of those soccer stadiums down in Brazil, then yeah, they're going to do it because those motherfuckers will sell that entire stadium out. If they can't do that, could they get the fight in Dallas? Because I think Dallas's football stadium's got to be the biggest sports arena in North America.
Yeah, I mean it's fucking huge. Yeah, I mean they could do it there, but
could they sell that out? But I think you have to reserve that venue for Cain Velasquez because of the proximity to Mexico. I think if you're not going to go, if your next venture's not into Mexico, you put Cain Velasquez in Dallas because of the selling power. You're not going to put a Brazilian and an American in Dallas. It just don't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And you know, I don't know what Texas, their athletic commission, what the ratio is, because it's called, that's what we always call it.
See,
what's the ratio?
That's the unfortunate thing that you even had to say that. It's unfortunate that you even have to go, what's the ratio in that state? What's the ratio in that state? What's the ratio in Brazil?
If any of you motherfuckers ask me about a fight from now on saying, well, you guys aren't analyzing this, I'm going to tell you what, when you come at Kevin, you just ask me, the first question is, what's the ratio? That's it. What's the ratio? Because I need to know the fucking ratio before I can accurately predict any fucking fight. You
unfortunately,
know what I mean?
Unfortunately, you have to. I mean, you could go off a guy's track record, but you have to. I mean, you literally have to see where he's fought, what the ratios are there, because Brazil supposedly has rumor is Brazil has a new athletic commission. Well, what's their leniency? Are they responsible for testing? Who's responsible for testing? If they're not testing, the UFC is supposed to test. Are they testing? I find it funny.
Well, Go ahead. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I find it hilarious that GSP's throwing out his testing results when he paid for them. He paid this company to test him. I'm going to tell you right now, if I paid you $5 to test me, my shit better come back clean. Come on, man.
Right.
I'm paying a company to test me for steroids. You think they're legitimately going to say, oh, yeah, he's dirty? Come on, man.
Yeah. It's just this. And you know what's funny? I don't have anything. I don't say any. I'm not going to criticize any of the fighters, because let me tell you something. If I'm a fighter and someone's going to give me a hall pass to fucking take gear, then I'm taking it, because you know what? I want to fucking move myself up the ranks. I want to get a fat fucking paycheck. I want to support my family. So I'm going to do what it takes. There will be a lot of people that watch this video and frown on me. I don't give a fuck, because you know, at the end of the day, I'm getting paid, and this is what I'm in this sport to do. I'm not in this sport to get fucking punched in my face and not be able to bring home a fat ass paycheck. You know what I mean?
Dude, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so I'm going to do with these guys. So I don't fault any of the guys that are on shit. I don't dislike them because of it or anything like this. Obviously, some of the guys that are on the shit are my favorite fighters, actually. But I just feel fucked up for people like Big Country. You know, fighters that are straight up and like, hey, I don't know what the fuck I should do, because I'm going up against a guy whose test level is going to be 6-7 times what mine's going to be when we enter the octagon. I feel like fair is fucking fair. You know what I mean?
One would think. And what kills me is people are sitting there saying that a guy like Vitor's test levels are low. So if we get his test levels back to what mine should be, well, here's the thing: we're not testing. No one's testing my test levels, so we don't know if mine are high or low, because I'm not even out to get mine tested. So you can't tell me that we're on a level playing field when we don't know anything about me, because I'm not getting replacement therapy at all.
Well, yeah, and then you got guys that are, you know, in their 20s or prior to fighting or getting any fight or being put in an event or a venue where they were tested, took a lot of gear. So now they're tested, and their fucking dick is in the fucking dirt. Their test levels, you know, their T levels are below 100, and they're like, okay, I have to have this, because forget the whole MMA spectrum of their life or avenue of their life. They need it for the other aspects of their life. So
Ask Nate Marquardt.
Yeah, you know, like Nate Marquardt. These guys have taken gear, you know, and George, you and I both know guys that took gear fucking 10, 15, 20 fucking years, and now all of a sudden you gotta fucking have it, because your body's like, I ain't producing it. Your nuts are the size of raisins, and your body's like, fuck this. Why produce tests when I got fucking loads of it fucking artificially going through my body? You know, and so now.